Welcome, everyone. I'm Lindsay, the National Educator for Evan Healy, and I'm here today with a very special guest for our next episode of What's Your Truth? And so today we have co-founder and creator of Evan Healy Skincare, Evan Healy herself. Welcome, Evan.
Lindsay, I'm thrilled to be here. I want to feel like, I feel like I've just been dying to watch you, and you're so gracious and beautiful and glorious. And I think to myself, oh, I can't wait. Like I can have a split screen with Lindsay. And now I'm like looking at your face going, I need to change my makeup to 45 because it looks so good on you. But anyway, Lindsay, I'm happy to be here, and thank you so much for allowing me to come on.
Oh, thank you so much for joining us. And I know she needs no introduction, but I'm going to give you a brief one, and then we're going to dive deep into all of the things and as many as we can fit in this amount of time that make Evan special and her unique experience as a holistic esthetician and aromatherapist. She's worked in the natural products industry, all of this for over 30 years. She's this unique healing or unique fusion of healing modalities that are incorporated into Evan Healy Skincare. And I find it so inspiring to listen to Evan talk. So, without further ado, we're going to get started here. All right, Evan. So I have a few questions for you today. When did you first experience the healing power of nature and plants?
Well, that's a really good question, and I was you did helpfully send me a list of questions, and I made a lot of little notes and and really tested my memory on some of this. And I have to say, I think in terms of the healing, I think in terms of aromatherapy, I can tell you that one of the first things that I've had, that one of the first experiences I had goes back to 1977. My parents had I'm going to cut it into a long story short. My dad had taken an early retirement and sailed my sister and a crew of a few other friends down to Tahiti. These people left, and my whole family came down with my dad. So my mom, my sister, my brother, and we landed in. We flew. I flew into Papeete, and then Dad swooped us off into the boat into his 45-foot Cal 246, and we took off for one of the outer lying islands in Tahiti. One morning, and you're below the equator there, right? So staph infections can be quite serious. I had a fresh cup of boiling water, and I wedged it in between the seats where my mom sat next to me. As she was sitting down, the cup of tea spilled over onto her pants. And the pants in those days were usually polyester, and the polyester doesn't really have an absorption quality that cotton or linen would have. So it actually held the boiling water that much longer against her leg,
Oh
creating a
my.
serious burn. It was a serious burn. And we were way out, we were in the middle of Huahine. We were way out. We were over a 24 to 36-hour sail back to Papeete. So I felt terrible, and we could see that as she was trying to yank, it was painful, so she was trying to yank the pants off, so to remove the heat. And we changed her, we laid her down, looked at her. I mean, she was conscious and everything. She was just saying, yeah, this is not fun. And so my dad said, we're going to, Evan, you and I are going to row her into the island. And we rowed her into the island in a rowboat. And I mean, it was Robinson Crusoe. We were walking along a little path, and there wasn't anybody else, palm trees, and we didn't exactly need a machete to cut through the wilderness, but we finally found a French clinic that was a beautiful, clean French clinic run by a French medical doctor. So long story short, he looked at the burn. He said, "Yep, this is we need to treat this." He cut away the dead tissue, and then he took out from the shelf way up in his office and opened a tin of. And the minute he opened it, the office was filled with the most aromatic, medicinal fragrance I have ever smelled. That was my first experience, really, of the sense of smell. I mean, we're used to smelling coffee and bacon and food and fresh mown grass and perfume and all sorts of things. But we are not used to, back in 1977, I wasn't used to smelling the essential oils that were this kind of powerful. And these were saturated gauze pads in infusion and oil of essential oils, not just pure essential oils, but other base oils and fixed oils. He takes cuts away the skin, lays these pads on her leg, tapes it down, and says to us, "Come back in a week." So we said, "Okay." And she felt okay. So we rode back, spent the week. He said, "Don't get it wet." We came back in a week. He removed the pads, and instead of being infected, which it can take a long time to clear up an infection in below the equator or right on the equator, it was clear, healthy skin. It still needed a little extra care, but she had come through, and it was astonishing. So my dad, as astonished as I was, said, what is this? And the doctor says these are, I don't know if he called them essential oils, but he said these are essential oils, and this is what we use here in the tropics for treating burns and infections and so forth. And so my dad bought him out of all of these tins, because my dad sailed from Newport Beach, California down to Tahiti, and he had to make the return trip back. And so he said, I want to buy all the tins that you have for the emergencies that will come up. And I remember years later coming upon some of the tins in my parents' little bathroom. But that was my first trip. I mean, that was my first experience of essential oils. And I'm not much of a gardener. My dad was a gardener, so I mean, just recreationally. So he would grow basil and things like that. But that was really my first introduction.
That's incredible. And what a, I feel like it would be slightly traumatic going through that to, especially when you're somewhere where you're not from there and you're traveling. It's amazing to hear that and how healing plants can be.
Really down. It was very exotic, and then hey, it makes a good story.
It is amazing. Oh, and so that kind of even brings me to our next question, actually. I was kind of curious about your time working at your dad's natural food store, and also your experience in the natural products industry.
I had gone through a training program at iMagnet in San Francisco for a 6-year training program for marketing and merchandising and being a buyer. So for the fashion industry, I got tired of that, and my dad had come back from Tahiti at that point and had moved down. He and my mom had moved down to Southern California, and my dad with a partner opened up a natural food store. So he had a need, so he had bought one of the stores from this chain of stores out and opened it for himself. It was actually a retirement project for him. He did take an early retirement, so he was still only in his late 50s, and it was a 20,000 square foot store. And what we beat the odds, he was a brilliant man, a brilliant businessman. He beat the odds because this store was located in San Diego and Claremont, and he used to run ads saying, "If you can find our store, we'll give you a fresh baked loaf of bread." And we had a full service bread bakery, and so we would, people would come in and say, I found it, and that was a way of drawing people in there. But what he didn't have at that time was anyone to run a body care department. And in those days, now we've moved forward to 1984, and he had a nutritional department. But my idea was, once he said, would you like to come down? So I came down from San Francisco, quit my buying job, which was at that point kind of a dead end for me. I sort of gotten all the training out of it that I wanted. So I came down to San Diego and was tasked with the development of developing and integrating natural skincare into his 20,000 square foot natural grocery store. Well, I knew absolutely zero about natural skincare. I mean, I was a Clinique girl in those days. And so I had a lot of catching up to do. And in those days, there wasn't a lot of natural philosophy, theory, ingredients options for us to draw from. So I began to read ingredients, and I really educated myself by looking at all the packaging. And I finally came upon a couple of lines that I would feature. And at this point, I'd pulled out skincare from nutrition and had a separate department so we could track the sales. After I found this line, I don't know if you want me to name it or not, but after I found this line, sales took off because it was a phenomenal line. It was a very esoteric line. It was a line based in anthroposophical homeopathy, and it really took off because it fascinated me, and it acted on the skin like nothing else I had in my department. Now, remember, I'm not an esthetician at that time. I'm just a really well-trained merchant and retailer. So and we had a lot of customers. We had 20,000 square feet of gourmet natural foods, was my dad saying. And my part was to distinguish natural skincare and body care in the 80s, which was really my launching pad. And once I found this one line, it was what set us up on the map, and we became the #1 retailer in the United States of Dr. Hauschka.
Wow, amazing. This just came to mind when I was doing some events in San Diego. I met someone that worked at your dad's natural food store, and she had the sweetest things to say about your dad. He must have been a really special guy.
he was an exceptional man. He was what loving daughter couldn't say enough about a father who is creative and supportive and loving and kind and generous and wisdom and fair and committed to making people feel better. And he instilled that in me for skincare. So I really bow to his lotus feet, giving me the direction and the opportunity to learn. And he taught me a lot. That's good to hear. Thank you.
It's very sweet. Oh, so that kind of, brings us to, we're kind of wondering, like, what inspired you to become a holistic esthetician?
Well, and that's an excellent question, because it kind of follows along in my journey here. After I found Hauschka, I became the #1 retailer. They invited me to a training in 1986, an all expense paid training in 1986. And again, I'm not an esthetician. I'm still a buyer and a merchant, and I'm running a department that is now making about 11,000 about within the store. I better not quote this because my dad, although he's passed on, will come to me tonight and go, Evan, that was wrong figures. He'll send it to me somehow in a dream. But we were, as I said, we were the #1 retailers of this line. So Hauschka said, come to a training at this time it was still West Germany. So I went. My dad said yes, so we will send you. It was a 6-week period of time, and I was lucky enough to go to West Germany for 6 weeks. I didn't spend the entire 6 weeks at Bala, which is the parent company and the home of Dr. Hauschka. But I did have an esthetician training, and it was, again, just as a retailer, the esthetician training was seminal in my career path. It was transformational. It was the journey that was the turning point in my career. And there were just 4 of us. There was just 4 of us from the United States, a couple from New Zealand, 1 from Ireland and London, and so we were a fairly small group. And that is what got me on the path of the training. Had been so complete from, as my dad said, you've now had training on both sides of the counter. You're a retailer, you're a merchant, and now you're on the other side of the counter as a therapist. And so I decided, well, beauty school was my next step. And anyone who's gone through beauty school knows that, well, it's not exactly Stanford, but it was, I took it totally seriously. And once you get through beauty school and you pass your state boards, that's when the real training begins. And it's the postgraduate work and the years you spend studying those parts of natural skincare and natural beauty, and nutrition also, of course, as it ties into it, that really make you enriched as an esthetician. But for me, it was passion. For me, it was, as a friend of mine used to say, my dharmic path. I really know that I came here to work on faces, to create a skincare line. And frankly, I miss working on faces. So I don't know if I'd ever go back to doing it, but I've always sort of wished to have an opportunity to be able to. I just love touching faces, and it's every esthetician's treatment is her own dance. And I want to say a word about our estheticians. Between Joan, Courtney, and Shirley Joe, um, we have the best. I've had treatments from all of them, and it is the sense of touch, the magical sense of touch the activity that works between the touch on your hands to your face, to your client's face. This is where the healing begins and ends, is between the sense of touch and your skin. And in your own hands, you also hold that ability, that magical ability to transform your own skin simply by the emotion and the love and the respect that you have for yourself. And so your own hands are your own uh, touchstone of health, and they communicate your intuition, and we all have an inner physician. So it tells you both emotionally, physically, mentally, spiritually, who you are and what you need to do by touching your face. And it's a very loving gesture. And all through my career, as with every other esthetician, what you're doing with your arms is you're encasing your client in a hug. And I think and it also comes, of course, if I were your esthetician, my hands would be going the other way, only I can't, this sort of thing. But it is a hug. And I think, especially today, where we're not touching anybody, I mean, bringing in COVID for a second, this is what we're missing. This is why we are so stressed right now. And so if we can't have a facial by our favorite esthetician, we can have one for ourselves with magical transformational ingredients that we have, the oils, the clays, the hydrosols, really, which bring in the fragrance of nature into our olfactory system. So,
Oh, so beautiful, Evan. Thank you. And it's just resonates so much with me right now. And I'd like to be the first that signs up for when, if you wanted to.
I would absolutely would love that, Lindsay. That would be such a treat. What I envision is a room full of us, Joan and Courtney and Shirley Joe and me and whoever are all of our estheticians. I just happen to know those three the best, and but I know we have the people that work for us are the best. So we really are lucky in that way, and they get the message of about your skin, and how important it is to pay attention to the signs and signals that our skin gives us.
Yes, I agree. We have such a beautiful aesthetics team that's so nurturing, and they are incredible estheticians, and they
Really,
just, yeah, they inspire me as every day. So I'm so curious, what was it like being a holistic esthetician when that was really unusual? That was almost unheard of at that time.
you're right about that. And you know, the funny thing about it is, it's only in retrospect that I recognize it. In the moment, I was just following my path. I didn't think about it in terms of what other people were doing. In those days, there was a lot of public interest in glycolic acids. And in my experience, in my what all of the information I'd learned both postgraduate wise and in Germany and France, where I also took classes, was that what glycolic acids do, and harsh acid peels and ingredients that really they dissolve the epidermal layer of the skin. And I have famous for saying, and I know that people who know me in this business, if they've heard it once, they've heard it a million times, but your epidermal layer is there for a reason. And there isn't a more important time to remember that than now, especially again with virus particles, airborne virus particles possibly. And so it is very important that we respect the acid mantle, the microbiome, and the whole ability of the skin to protect our basic health. Our skin, if you think about it, your skin is the only organ you see. You don't see your liver, you don't see your pancreas, you don't see your heart, you don't see any of your digestive organs, but it is the one organ you can see, and the one organ that you can detect changes from. And moment to moment, your skin is changing. It changes from the minute you get up to the minute you go to bed. And during the evening, it changes again. There's a whole circadian rhythm. So what you're always looking for is this balance, this homeostasis. And the thing that I was aiming for in developing my product was an ability for our products to maintain this balance of homeostasis, maintain the acid mantle, don't dissolve the epidermal layer, don't expect that removing the cellular microbiome is going to leave you a cleaner, fresher skin. It won't. What it leaves is immature cells on the surface of your skin that are unprepared to take over the responsibility of protecting the skin. The skin's number one duty is to protect and defend the organism. We have all these mucous membrane openings on our face, but we have them throughout our body. all of the substances that are our tears, mucus, saliva, earwax, all of the sebum in our hair and our face, all of these substances are not to be wiped off the slate and clean. A squeaky clean skin is not what you want. What you want is a slightly oily, slightly moist skin that has an ability to fight the bacteria and the microbiome and the microbial invasions that hit us. So um, the so that is so you want oil on your face. So I remember in the early days people saying, I've got so much oil and I'm using these oil removing products and the oil saturating pads on their faces. And I'd say, and they'd say to me, what can I do to slow down the sebum? Why is my skin so oily? And we'd look at what they're using to cleanse with, and it was usually something, harsh and something that was very high alkaline, so that strips the skin of the oil. And I'd say what you really need is, in a homeopathic sense, is just a little bit of oil on your skin, and they'd be like, you're out of your mind. I would say, no, you have to experience it. And here, how many times I know anybody that's watching this that has known me for all these years will recognize what I'm about to do next, which is you get the oil in the palms of your hands, and yes, here we are, the oil on the skin. So you spray with the hydrosol, and then you press the oil. Just if you have oily skin, if you're in puberty, if you're a young adult and you have an excess amount of oil on your skin, the best thing you can do is any of our oil serums and a lot of our hydrosols will instantly reestablish balance. So it's really working with the body's own wisdom, the body's own ability to provide what it needs to stay healthy. And so that's a lot of times what I would spend time doing in my practice was educating people, telling them. They would say, why is my skin doing this? And to the best of my ability, I would explain within my experience what it's doing. I was careful not to tell people what to eat or what nutritional supplements to take, because I'm not a nutritionist, I'm not a dietitian. But I would say that a lot of times what you eat, especially, well, we all know that what we eat is important. And I'm not going to tell people what to eat other than to put the responsibility back on them and say, again, rely on that inner physician of your own inner knowing and your intuition of what's good for you and what feels good for you and what resonates for you. And so eat the things that make you feel good and stay away from the things that don't make you feel good, like that pint of Cherry Garcia ice cream I ate the other day in the fit of heat. I'm not perfect. I eat a lot of dandelion greens, though. Lana's laughing.
It's all about balance.
Right. It's all that. So my dad used to say, it's not what you eat between New Year's and Thanksgiving that counts. It's what you eat between Thanksgiving and Christmas or something like that. Anyway, so we have to enjoy our life too. So that's another message is be happy.
So true. Oh my. So then what kind of skin conditions were you seeing and how were you, treating those skin conditions?
Again, those are really, really, really important and good questions, because and again, it was also possibly due to the time that I was practicing, which was late 80s, early 90s, mid 90s to about 96, 97, was a lot of overactive skin. I was seeing skin that it had been too many acid treatments. So I was seeing skin that was raw. I was seeing skin that had eczema, psoriasis, rosacea. So essentially, the most common skin imbalance I saw was surface dehydration. Even oily skin can have surface dehydration. And so those were the most common imbalances I saw: too oily, too dry, or the oily tea. So that is what established those three first starter kits that I started, was the rose, the blue, and the combination, because those were the three most common types of skin that I was seeing was congested. So preteen, teen, and then menopausal, perimenopausal, and menopausal, of course, and every time in between. Uh, so there was fighting congested skin, reestablishing hydration. We tend to use the two words moisturize and hydration interchangeably, but if you really look at the difference, the hydration is all about water and moisture is more centered around oil, which is why going back to my practice in San Diego during a Santa Ana wind, and if you've ever been in Southern California during a Santa Ana, the winds change direction from offshore to over the desert, and the humidity drops to like 3% humidity in the air. So it's really dry, drier than an airline cabin. So I would get people with extremely dehydrated skin, hair doing weird things. It would change their personality. I used to call them prickly. And I would call myself prickly. So it was what I found was working during these really dry, dehydrated winds that would blow with sand, and they were just nasty, was this combination of a couple of oils, a couple of pumps of oil, and a good saturation of hydrosol. And these were the two things that seemed to reestablish and a balance of both hydration and moisture in the skin. And it also reestablished an emotional feeling of well-being, because these are uncomfortable periods of time, and there's a huge fire threat, as we all know. So not only are we experiencing physical and emotional fear, but we're also concerned with our homes and our families. What was your question? I'm sorry.
Well, I feel like you answered it. I was asking about the different skin conditions you were seeing and how you were treating them. So, yeah, you really covered it, and I feel like when you're explaining the oil and water, and after 15 years I've been using your skincare. After 15 years, it never gets old. Every time I do my oil and water, I feel better, my skin feels better, my emotions, like you mentioned, it's so transformative, and yet it's, what did you say? You say radical simplicity.
Thank you very much. Radical simplicity. You're exactly right, and that is what it is. We tend to go with the ingredient du jour, and it's really the radical simplicity and your skin is an absolute perfect example of the beauty of healthy skin and the healthy balance of skin, where there's an inner glow and obviously clean and well balanced and happy. So yes, it's exactly, good skincare should have that effect. I will just mention one other product that I used a lot was my Shea Butter, and Shea Butter became nature's bandage for a lot of skin conditions, and it was important because this was the first product in Toronto that it took me a couple of years to develop it because I kept playing around with Shea Butters. But when I finally hit on finally hit on the recipe, it worked, and so it's an important part of the line for a lot of different reasons. And yes, the radical simplicity is very important to remember, because we tend to complicate our lives. And the skin is not a complicated organ. It's an organ that it's I won't say that acne and eczema and psoriasis are easy things to fix. They're not. They're quite complex. Rosacea, things like that. They're complex, and they take more than just skincare. Sometimes you need the help of a good family physician. But
Yeah, when I started, I had rosacea. I was actually seeing a doctor, and then had tried everything in the natural products industry because I was working at the Wedge, and
favorite
the moment. What's that?
favorite store.
Thank you. I love that store. So special, and of course, Rob was there, and um, when I first did my oil and water, I had immediate relief from the burning aspect, that like it burned. It was really uncomfortable. And so I did, rose hip treatment serum blue with lavender hydrosol. And I did that application, and I instantly felt calmed. And even when we do the hand application demo, you can actually see it even takes out the pink right when you do that hand application. But I had immediate, and then I had cumulative, and of course I did have to do some elimination in my diet of certain foods, which I've been able to incorporate a lot back. Like, I'm not perfect, I I don't do well with dairy, but I love some ice cream sometimes. Like, you know,
You.
right? I know, the Cherry Garcia. um, but yeah, that sort of, that like the longevity of using the products, and feeling better in my skin, feeling more comfortable, and I mean, the way you feel about things is half of it is how you feel about it, and just feeling so transformed from the aromatherapy, and the touch, like you mentioned, incorporating all of those things has really, it's been incredible. And I've talked to other people about it after 15 years. When I first found Evan Healy, I quit searching because I didn't have to keep searching, because I'm satisfied, and I still am satisfied. And I really appreciate your work, because I was very self-conscious, and I truly feel, I feel better in my skin. I'm healthy. I feel healthy in my skin.
That's an excellent way of describing it, feeling better in your skin. That. I think when I decided I wanted to be an esthetician, that was one of the first things that came to me as an indication. It was like, I want people to feel, after being a retailer and working with people behind the counter, uh, and knowing that I could take it further, that making them feel better in their skin is really a key sentence to what this is all about. And so that's really a good indication. I also want to mention, well, wait, you're the one running this store. Tell me, okay,
Go ahead. If Go ahead.
I was just going to talk about clay.
Oh yes, please do. Please
Well,
do.
one of the things that of the trio of simplicity, besides our oil and water, of course, is our clay. And people tend to, I used to call it, and I still do, the unsung hero. Um, I have gotten in the past number of many months, I don't know why, but all of it, I cannot get down to my cup of coffee in the morning before I put on a clay mask. And while I've always loved clay, for the past 6 months or so, every morning I get up and it's like I brush my teeth, wash my face, and put on a clay mask. And I take different, I switch back and forth, and I may mix it with some other products that I have. I think what is happening is that what I'm recognizing during this period of time of my life is that clay is pulling out my emotions that have been stored in my body. And good, bad, or indifferent, our skin, we have this, I can't think of the name of it right now, but we really have this sort of psychic, we have a boundary, right? When someone gets too close to you, you tend to back away. If they're someone you don't know, if there's someone you like, then you move towards them. But let's just assume they're a stranger and they get too close to you. You tend to move away, and sometimes you can feel them from the back. And so what this is the body's has a layer of just nerve endings. When you're working with your skin, you're really working with your nervous system, because your skin is your external nervous system. So everything that you put on your skin will help your nervous system or hinder it, depending on what you're putting on. In terms of clay is drawing out the impurities, not metabolic impurities, not just metabolic impurities from digestion, but emotional metabolic impurities. So it really, there's a release mechanism that's coming through these thousands of tiny dermal pores that are relieving us of stress. I truly believe that, and I've experienced myself. I know our estheticians have reported it. Clients have mentioned it to us. And maybe they don't recognize it as literally clay drawing emotions out of your skin. But one of the things that clay can do is do that. And it's miraculous that skin treatments can go that far, really, when you think about it. That they can have, I mean, as you were just saying, using the right products makes you feel better. And this is just an extension of what you just said. You're absolutely right. And something like clay can finish it by drawing out these intangible emotions, so that clay in a bath, clay just on your face, clay on chest, it draws out, there's an electromagnetic field, and there's a positive and a negative pole to the skin, and the clays are active in that sense. And so that's another thing that's of benefit, that's also radically simple. So I'm not saying it's going to, if you're on antidepressants or anti-anxiety, I'm not saying maybe someday you can throw away your pills, but it really helps. It has obviously helped me, and it was an intuitive thing where I'm now doing it every day, because there's something intangible in addition to what it's doing for my skin. It's also lifting my spirits. So I love that.
Wow, that's so beautiful. I feel that way too. I feel like, if I'm feeling a little ungrounded and I'm a little chaotic, when I do my clay, I come back into my body, and
That's a good way of putting it.
yeah, I really do. I always think to myself when I'm doing my clay too, I'm like, oh, I need to remember to do the, to keep doing this, like when I need it, like to reach for that, because it has so much more than just the superficial effects, which are incredible, what it does for our skin. But again, I never really thought about it the way you said it, but I've felt that. So now I'm looking at it a different way. Thank you.
It's really, I mean, I think going back to one of your first questions, I think the most compelling thing about skin for me is how, I don't know how to say this without making it sound really benign and sort of banal, but it's just such an exceptional organ. And and it does so much for us. It is fighting battles. That's why when people would come in and they would say, oh, my skin is so terrible and I don't like what it's doing and it's breaking out. And I'd say, you know, I am your skin's advocate. I am the voice of your skin. I want you to say something positive about it, because I'll tell you what, your skin is fighting microbial, bacterial, viral, fungal, parasitic fights that you don't even know are going on, and it is protecting you from these invaders. So it's like your fairy godmother. And so that's important to remember, is that your skin is fighting and working even when you're at rest. So keep you safe.
Right. So, so Evan, I still have several questions for you. How are you feeling? Should we continue?
Yeah.
Wonderful. So, you know, you've studied so many different holistic healing modalities, and I was just wondering, like, you know, what drew you to those different treatments and learning more about all these incredible therapies?
I think it's probably as simple as just following the thread. One class or one conversation or one article in a magazine would lead me to wanting to see, to find out about that. I sort of dove in at the deep end with anthroposophical homeopathy, and but I loved it. I understood it to the best that I could, but I certainly understood it in terms of skincare. And it opened up, and therefore it opened up biodynamic farming, the Demeter line, Waldorf education. It also enlightened me and drew my attention to essential oils and hydrosols. I mean, I've always worked with essential oils, hydrosols, and clays. So, so those were some of the most important ingredients and raw materials that I would work with. And I think it's simply a path. I mean, if you're on your path, you know it. So you go to trade shows, and sometimes the trade shows would be interesting and sometimes they wouldn't be, but you'd always get something out of it. And of the ones that wouldn't necessarily attract me, what I got out of that positively was, well, what is it that what makes, here's the question I always used to ask myself, is what makes me different than all the other lines out there? And I would follow that question. That became my mantra, is how am I different from everyone else? And so when I'd go to a trade show of conventional products that, that were out there, and I was solidly into the natural skincare industry and natural body care, I would be able to determine, here, this product line is using this active ingredient, and this is the story they're telling about how your skin is and how your skin acts, and do you agree with it? And I'd look at it and go, no, I don't agree with it, based on both my experience, because I have experience on skin, my background, my postgraduate work. I don't agree with it personally, maybe the way they're marketing it as a retailer. And so I had a wealth of experience that informed me about what I was looking for in terms of products and information, and what made these choices for me. But the key sentence for me was always answering a question when I'd have someone come and say, I'd like you to look at this line, or maybe a broker rep. And I would think to myself, well, if it's on everyone's shelf, how can I stand out? Because in a store, in a market, that real estate is expensive, and a store wants the line to sell. But what sells a skincare line? What sells it? And I'll answer it. What sells a skincare line for me is whether it's effective or not. The price doesn't really enter into it, because if it's expensive but it works, I've never seen a person not buy something that works for them, that they're happy with. So what we number one want a product to do is be effective, and be effective without destroying, without throwing the baby out with the bathwater, you know, in other words, without imbalancing or disturbing the homeostasis of the skin and the rest of the body. So that's what we're looking for, is effectiveness and longevity. Is this a product that you can continue to use? Think of skincare and skincare products as a relationship. Can you maintain this relationship through the rest of your life? um, I think the skincare industry, which is, someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's at least a $600 billion industry. If I'm off a few zeros, then I can be corrected, but it's a $60 billion industry at least. And so there's a lot of people that depend on people changing their minds about their skincare, right? Because if they've got this much money in packaging and marketing, the ingredient du jour, the cosmetic chemists coming out with new things all the time, a real selection of different skincare products, then people are going to be, it's like fishing and wanting to have, you know, the fish always going for the shiny object in the water. I certainly am guilty of that. If it's new, and if the language is correct, then I'm all over it. But once I get it home, if it doesn't work, then I take it apart. What didn't work about it? So so I'm not a scientist, but I am a theorist, and so I would have a lot of theories about why things wouldn't work. Did I answer your question?
I think so. You said, you know, you kind of, it's
Somewhere in
like
there.
that followed synchronicities and then also like what's effective. Yes, and you know, amazing. I have a question for you about, you know, your studies in aromatherapy. So you're well ahead of your time with that, and you studied under, you know, so many thought leaders in aromatherapy, like the people that actually wrote the textbooks on aromatherapy. And I was just wondering if you had any stories to share about that.
I did. I was really lucky in aromatherapy because I came in at an early time in the 80s. One of my earliest teachers is Marcel Lavab of Aroma Vera. And from there, I met Kurt Schnabelt. Kurt was immensely, not only entertaining, but really, really informative. I learned a lot from Kurt. And Dietrich Gumbel, also a PhD, and he and his wife uh, were both instrumental in really stimulating my interest in aromatherapy. And then Malti Hassel of Oshadi. He was, I went to France, and in every meeting with these really seminal men, I'm trying to think of the women. Gosh, I wish there were more women in the field, and there may be, but I'm not thinking of them right now. But nevertheless, these men were really taught me a lot from a lot of different angles. And from Kurt, I learned the language of chemistry, and not being a chemist and not being someone that came naturally to, I was astonished at how easily I was able to begin to converse in the language of chemistry in terms of how it related to aromatherapy, because sage lavendifolia is completely different from other sages, and lavender, angustifolia. So I had a client once that was using sage lavendifolia instead of lavender angustifolia, and these were two different types, you know, two vitally different types of essential oils. And so knowing the language and the activity of the essential oil, also in France, they do, I think it's called aromograms, where if you've got an infection, they will culture the infection and then create an aromatograph, which uses the power of essential oils and the chemistry to build a triad of essential oils and their constituents. So I was fascinated by the language of aromatherapy, by the fragrances of aromatherapy. Being in skincare, I was happily limited to just working on the skin. I wouldn't use more aggressive essential oils on the skin because the skin has all these mucous membrane openings, and you don't want to, well, poison yourself. They need to be pleasant, they need to be gentle, they need to be calming and soothing. So I usually worked with, flowers and uh, different parts of the roots, vetiver, leaf, patchouli, sandalwood, the wood itself, rose geranium, the leaf, rose, the petal, you name it. I worked with it. And then I also worked with Mandy Aftel after studying at in Big Sur, Esalen. I took a class in perfumery and spent a number of years in just tinkering with perfumery, and that was incredibly informative and lovely, and a real experience for me. So I sort of looked at it from all, it's like the crystal ball in the middle of the dance room. I looked at it from all perspectives, both medicinally, which was really my favorite, to perfumery, and then how it worked in skincare. Too much, you don't want to use too much essential oil in skincare. We keep our formulas purposely at the threshold, just under the threshold of perception, because that is where the body actually works to balance itself via the activity of the chemistry of the aromatherapeutic oil, as well as working with the olfactory system. So it doesn't need to be 16% facial oil. It just needs to be 0.75 or 0.5 essential oil total blend, and the rest of the rest of the constituents, or the rest of the makeup of the oil, is the fixed oil itself, which is also very healthy. There's a lot of wonderful tamanu, inophyllum, calophyllum, prickly pear, argan, sea buckthorn oil, all of these. We have a whole wardrobe is what I like to call it, a whole wardrobe of essential oils and fatty oils and infusions, beautiful infusions. We use a beautiful, one of my favorites is our beautiful vanilla infusion. I love that.
So lovely. Oh, thank you. I love all the blends. All of your blends are they're just so perfect. And, what's so beautiful is that you have a variety. So there's something that resonates with everyone. Like there's something for everyone there. And there's sort of like the beauty in that, like it's simple, but yet it's still, like the aromas can be complex, and the way they're blended, you can't always tell. They're perfectly blended. So thank you for that.
Pleasure.
Oh, wonderful. So I have a question that even, kind of inspired our show. The show is called What's Your Truth? And really inspired by you. You've always been a truth seeker. And I'm wondering, what sparked your desire to research and think outside the box?
Well, the truth seeker philosophy came one day when I was walking with a friend in the morning one day. And as I do with friends, we always end up in business somehow. And I was talking about the fact that there isn't, and I don't mean to be critical to anybody else, but I think we can all agree that there isn't always truth in advertising. And what my own personality says is that a lot of what I was reading about what was in the industry wasn't necessarily very accurate. And I said, we need to some of our literature needs to express the fact that without naming names, we need to come out with the truth of what it is. I didn't want to you don't ever want to downplay a competitor. That's not the point. The point is for you to lift the conversation of quality, integrity, uh, truth, health, moving towards working towards the integrity of the human spirit. And that's what I was looking for. And that's what I wanted to communicate. So the truth seeker is a person who is looking for and looking towards the value of truth in what they read, what they use on your skin. And it also holds us accountable to being who we are and putting out what is the strongest for our own integrity and the integrity of our spirits, and what gives us comfort when we go to bed at night, that we've done a good job, that we've done something that is satisfied and that has made someone feel better. When I get testimonials from people, some of them with serious skincare conditions, that changes my whole life. That changes all the cellular matter in my body for days. I'm just so thrilled to get these kinds of these letters. We don't post a lot of them, which is neither here nor there. Maybe I just get to read them, when they come in. But when I read about some of the things that people have found by themselves and have treated themselves with, and have listened to their own intuition by simply picking up one of our products and saying, hey, this turned my life around, that's a truth seeker. That's someone who is looking for the truth in life. And I think that these are things that these days we've a little bit lost the path of what's important in our life. I think that I think that using the word or the philosophy of truth seeker means a lot to me, because that's what I was looking for that morning when I was walking along with a friend of mine, saying we need to start being really truthful about not about what we're putting out, but also about what we're seeing that's not good out there, without blame and without chastisement, but just saying there are things that aren't great out there. And so we would, and not to our own benefit, but just to say, you make the decision, you decide what feels right to you. And we would uphold our end of the bargain by giving you the best of what we thought is the best for you. And humble beauty is something that I've always cherished, is the elimination of the ego and I don't know if I'm articulating that right, but the elimination of being, always being beautiful. I mean, we're not always beautiful. We age, and that is a blessing. Aging is a blessing. And I think that's not what you asked in terms of truth seekers, but I mean, that is part of our truth, right? We're aging, and we aren't always going to be glowy and dewy and beautiful, but it doesn't mean we're not beautiful. It just means that our eyes, what we see is different, and what we feel is different towards the people in our lives that we really care about. And that these people sometimes go and they sometimes stay, but we have to keep connected to our own beauty and what's beauty within ourselves and what we see reflected back at us.
So beautiful and so profound. Thank you. Yeah, there's like a depth to that beauty, that like the beauty of having lots of experience in your life, and like your loved ones, and it's so wonderful to hear it that way. And it's all of our truth, right? We're all aging, and it's a beautiful thing. So I know we can't fit everything in an hour, but I was curious, how did all of your experience lead to the development, of Evan Healy skincare? How did it bring us to where we are?
I'll tell you, from going from philosophy to numbers and the other side of the ledger, I will tell you my truth. My truth was that as an esthetician, no matter how many people I would squeeze in a day to see, I was only ever going to make a certain, so it really, I mean, I probably shouldn't even be saying this. I don't say it anyway because I'm a truth seeker, is that it came down to dollars and cents. Um, and it also came down to what I was learning. I wanted that skincare lines that I was working with, while I deeply revered them, I also saw in every single face that I saw as an esthetician, every single client had a different type of skin. And I could see where some of the products I was using and they were like fixed, they weren't mutable, they weren't changeable. So they would treat just this type of skin. And I would say, I need something. I could see in treating the skin that this person needed something else. And it was funny. I mean, because I only say this, I'm admitting it's between you and me. I would have a client in front of me and I could see they need a certain type of mask that I didn't have, but I had some of the raw materials. So while they were sitting there with a mask on, and they had iPads on, I would swirl around in my chair and I would be mixing something like a mad scientist in back of me to be able to work after their mask. So I'd be saying, they don't need this, they need this and this. And the cauldrons would be boiling and everything. And so, so I'd turn around, I'd, press off the mask and hydrosol off the mask. And then I would make something different from what was required in my routine of my skincare routine. So that brought me to the realization, that was the number one reason. It brought me to the realization that I needed a product line that was adaptable, that would take any type of skin and adapt it. So oil, water, and clay fits that recipe exactly, because whatever your skin, whatever condition or situation or age your skin is, these and the products made from these are the basic building blocks of all of my entire line. These products will change and allow the body's wisdom to change, to adapt to what your skin needs without having to manipulate it with special ingredients. And so the second thing is that I started to say is that no matter how many clients I would see, I would only ever be able in a 12-hour, I wouldn't always work 12 hours, but in a long day. So you only make, if I wasn't selling products, I was only making what I was making as an esthetician. So I decided that I needed to be an esthetician and design my own skincare line. So long story short, that's eventually what I did, but I had to give up the skincare practice to devote full-time to the building of a skincare line. And luckily I had a lot of comrades and friends that I'd met through aromatherapy training. And so I had hydrosols, essential oils, clays. I had a lot of the basic ingredients already down for a full-scale line.
Awesome. Oh my gosh, so great. So you kind of touched on this a little bit about, intuition earlier, but I was wondering if you could explain to us a little bit how our senses play a part in, in skincare and choosing our skincare.
That's a great question. And it's a question to ask yourself, well, at any time of the day, really. But what I do is I wake up and a lot of things contribute to my day and what I have to do in the day. But if I wake up on a day where it's stretching beyond in front of me and it's a leisurely day, I will have a chance to kind of examine my skin, feel it. I go outside. I go out and do what they call earthing, or a little bit of yoga outside, or sitting outside, or just what I'll do is I'll also take a bottle of hydrosol, and I will just grab a bottle of my hydrosol and sit outside and spray my face and close my eyes and do maybe a little meditation of just seeing where my skin feels. And like, I haven't even washed my face at this point. I've brushed my teeth, but I haven't washed my face. So I'm sort of like, hello, who are we today? And and you can do that. You can see where you are. Your skin will change daily. It will change monthly for a 28-day cycle for most of us women, and a lunar cycle. It will change seasonally. It will change, of course, yearly, and it will change throughout the rest of our lives. So what we want to do is get in touch with our intuition by just checking in. How do we feel? Are we feeling tired? Are we feeling exuberated? Are we looking forward to the day, or do you want to crawl back into bed and pull the covers over your head and say, it's just me and Cherry Garcia today? So and movies. I mean, uh, it it's the intuition kicks in when you feel your skin, look at your skin, and can close your eyes and maybe do a little meditation about how you're feeling. I find that the hydrosols help me get there. They help me to check in and, as you mentioned, ground yourself. All of the products do, but for some reason, and I know you've heard me talk about Richard Louve's book, The Nature Deficit. And as we've been, unfortunately, a lot of us sequestered inside, or sequestered and not being able to be outside enough, the absence of nature in our lives changes who we are and how we are, and it limits it limits just the types of light we need to see through our eyes, to absorb the light through our skin, vitamin D through our skin, the light through our eyes. It's important for us to see the blue sky. It's important for us to connect with the green of a tree, or the pink of a rose, or a bougainvillea, or whatever wildlife, wild plant life is growing around you, and to connect with the senses, the smell of scent. All of our senses are awakened when we're outside, and we can just focus on how we're feeling. So that brings in your sense of intuition. And sometimes intuition isn't something that you concentrate on. Sometimes intuition is something that occurs to you as you're making a cup of coffee or tea, or you're cutting up an apple, and all of a sudden this idea comes to you. It usually happens when you're completely detached from that thinking brain. Do you know what I mean? So we detach from the cognitive ability of, I've got to plan, okay, now I've got to go to the market, then I've got to go to the bank. You want to detach from these thoughts and just place yourself on a nice, safe, dry raft in the middle of the ocean, and you're simply just being lifted up by the ocean waves and down by the ocean waves, and you've completely disconnected from the burden of trying to figure things out. And that's when the intuitions come, I think.
Yes. Oh, thank you. I love that. um, so beautiful. So, what are your favorite skincare rituals right now?
Well, as I mentioned, masking. So for some reason, masking, I mean, I I have to just say, masking, oiling, and hydrosoling myself into a glow and yeah, those are my. I also love the blue cactus, and the all of our products that we have that we've come out with.
I love how it always comes back to oil, water, clay, and shea.
Radical
Always.
simplicity, you said it here.
It's the same for me. It's, it just, that's all I need. I'm not searching anymore.
You can, there's, you know, there, it's not like we can't go out and experiment with other lines, but it's also concretizing in the sense that it brings us back to what has always worked for us. And I think that those of us, you know, that use our products realize that while there's a lot of other lovely products out there, and I actually am a fan of one or two other lines out there that are exceptional lines. But because we are Evan Healy, and because that's our brand, and because I'm also, you know, able to talk about it and give a little history about, you know, why I started it and how I started it, and the philosophy behind it, I think there's strength in that for us, and so it keeps us, it allows us to experiment with other lines, but then always say, nope, I'm happy with what I'm using. And I think that's a very confident way of feeling about our skin, that it will accompany us through our lives and keep us safe.
So true. Okay, so I have one of your quotes here that I'd like to read for everyone. Um, and so this is a quote from Evan, everyone. So, your skin is not troubled. Your skin is not a problem. Your skin is not confused. Your skin is not broken. Your skin is not ugly. Your skin is not bad. Your skin is remarkably resilient. Your skin is protective. Your skin is defensive. It fights battles with pathogenic bacteria that you're not even aware it's going on. Your skin is complex, interacting with every other organ system in your body. Your skin is a diagnostic organ. Your skin can heal itself. Your skin is transformative. Your skin is the largest organ of your body and the only one you can see. Your skin, in any condition, is beautiful and important and surrounds you with the ability to feel the exquisite embrace of others. Evan, that is just such a beautiful quote. And, you know, I was just wondering, can you unpack that for us a little bit?
I think, you know, the interesting thing about that quote is it came from reading uh, a piece of literature that said the exact opposite. And it was attempting to sell an acne product. And the way it worded it was, your skin is broken. Your skin is broken. And while they didn't say your skin is broken, your skin is bad, your skin is, you know, it did say it was confused. And I immediately went into the opposite, based on my, at this point, extensive experience. And I said, no, it isn't. Your skin is not bad. Your skin is not ugly. Your skin is not a problem. Your skin is most definitely not confused. It is remarkably resilient. It's protective. It's defensive, and it can heal itself. It's transformative, and without it, you would, you know, without the health of your skin, your skin is constantly communicating to you, and when you have problems like acne, do you know that acne is the picture of a very sensitive skin condition? It's not something that needs acids thrown at it, or dermabrasions, and it's not broken, it's not bad. Your skin is wonderful. Your skin is remarkable. And I mean, think of it. You're going to be wearing it for the rest of your life. I mean, it's, I think that was really the inspiration, reading the exact opposite of this person's literature, that made me say, and the other thing that I wanted to communicate to people by saying this is love the skin you're in, you know, appreciate it, because it is what gives you the ability to feel the exquisite embrace of others. It is a feeling, touching organ. It is called the queen of senses, is touch, the queen of senses. That's why a facial, a massage. That's why our fabulous estheticians have such incredible touch. And it is their touch, it is our own touch on our own faces that bring us that confidence of knowing that who we are is enough and that we are not broken. We are quite fine just the way we are, and that these symptoms are simply pointing out the way of what we need to do to heal ourselves.
Wow. Thank you for advocating for us and our skin. It's so relieving when I read that for the first time. I was just, I felt relieved.
Oh,
Um,
wonderful. That's exactly, I'm so glad to hear that. Thank you.
yeah. Yes, thank you. And, thank you for being our ally and advocate and, showing us the way. Your experience, the way you explain it, it brings peace to me and others. I hear about it all the time. So thank you.
Well, Lindsay, this has been lovely. I love you. I so appreciate your beautiful gracefulness. And I've always heard nothing but wonderful, wonderful, wonderful things about you. And I'm glad you're my friend, and I'm glad you're with us. And thank you so much for a beautiful, beautiful time here with you today.
Thank you too, Evan. Thank you for being, just such a great mentor to me and inspiration. And, I'll never forget, back in the day when you were out doing trainings and I would get to assist you at the training and, just like hand you the products. And I
You
always,
are
felt so
amazing. Here's how you would do this. You would put the little bottle on your hand and you would hold your hand out. And I would think, look at that gracefulness. And I'm just going, here, try this. Here, try this. And you would handle it. It's such grace. I learned something from you. I've learned many things from you. But anyway, that's. We had some good times.
we have a lot of longevity at this point. It's been many years, and so grateful for you to join us and share your story, because there are so many things that make you unique and special, and it's just fun to hear about your stories and how I know there's much more to talk about, but I feel like we covered a lot for our first time. So thank you.
Thank you. I love you, Jen.
Mm.
I love you, Lindsay.
I love you, Evan, and everybody who's joining us. Thank you for watching.
Thank you, everybody, for joining.
Bye.